Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Exciting news, the latest Vorkath and Zamoragal boss release is finally here, and I've been diving into it to bring you guys a guide as soon as possible. Now, after multiple attempts and analysing my recorded footage, my team is gearing up for a run this Thursday, so I hope this guide helps you all out too. So without further ado, let's dive into it. First up, let's chat about Vorkath. He's a level 789 with 750k life points in solo. He is also aggressive and can't be poisoned. Now let's meet Zamoragal, also level 789 with 250k life points. Aggressive and poison resistant. Now on to some of the recommendations. So for this boss in normal mode, you'll want 90 in Necromancy, in range and mage, so pick your combat style whichever you prefer. Defense at 90 plus and HP at 90 are a solid, but higher is better for lasting in the fight. Overloads are a must, and don't forget about brews. They're definitely handy, especially if you're trying to save that adrenaline. Now when it comes to prayers, you can technically skip the ancient ones, but I'd definitely advise against it. The fight is quite long, so you don't really want to be in there for any longer than you have to be. Go for 95 plus prayers for curses. Now you might be wondering about summoning. It's optional, but keep an eye on your familiar's HP. This boss can be tough on them. Use a Prism of Restoration to patch them up if you've got that unlocked. If you haven't, definitely just keep an eye on it. Finally, aim for 74 plus Invention for those basic tier 1 perks to make your life easier. Now let's chat about the boss's requirements. So for starters, your Grove Cabin in Fort Foreign 3 needs to be at tier 1. Make sure to finish up the quest line for the fort. You also need level 60 in Necromancy, and you also need to get the Botanist Workbench to tier 1. Now getting there, if you are maxed, you can use the max portal, but heads up, the War's Retreat Fateful portal is attuned to the latest event boss release, so you can also use that. Alternatively, teleport using the Fort's Lodestone. If that's not unlocked, you've got the Varrock Lodestone is another option, just run northeast, or if you've got a Wicked HUD, you can teleport to the Earth Altar and head north from there. Now let's chat about the perks on this list. Make sure to aim for the highest tier of perk that you can get. Undead Slayer is a must-have since it works on Vorkath. As for Venom Blood and Dragon Slayer, I'm leaning towards them working because it's poison and well, it's a dragon. But you know, testing is still ongoing and maybe we'll have more information soon. Now the rest of the perks listed are all top notch and you should be a go-to perks. Just keep in mind that some of them might need a higher invention level, so just check out the wiki for more details. Moving on to the useful items. So here's a handy list of some essential items. First off, the dive ability is an absolute game changer, especially in hard mode. The thermal bath is fantastic for that health boost, and let's not overlook the added benefits of bonfire boost, which also stacks with a thermal bath. Also, the self amulet proves its worth against Vorkath, so if you don't have one yet, I'd highly recommend grabbing one. Now when it comes to prayer powders, there are two key ones to consider. The protection one is useful, but it doesn't stack with the Amulet of Souls. Then there's the Penance Powder, which replenishes your prayer points by 2.5% of any damage you take. I have also added on there the Irit Incense Sticks, because I'm assuming that will help with the poison-like damage that when you receive when stepping on the pools, although I have not tested that out yet. Now let's talk strategy. Keep on your abilities and consumables. It's a game changer, especially when you're navigating through the arena with your mouse. Clicking on your food might get rough, so I'd highly recommend learning more keybinds if you can. Now, ever heard of the Disruption Shield ability? It's amazing and has saved me multiple times in this game. Definitely something to work towards if you haven't unlocked it yet. Unfortunately, it is locked behind Livid Farm points, but no need to panic. You can grab the points to unlock it from the Travelling Merchant for a price. Now next up, the Enhanced Excalibur, a freebie with a gradual healing effect, why not bring it along? Then there is Ancient Summoning, all those new familiars post-archaeology, not going to name all of them but a few good ones, which is Blood Reaver, Calgarian Demon, the Hellhound and more. Or if you need extra food, you can go for it. Now the Death Warden Nexus is a recent release and an awesome one for storing your Necromancy runes and Ectoplasm. Craft it easily with an Ensouled bar, a silver bar and a cut sapphire. Once done, attune it by standing at the dark portal entry in the city of Now next we have the Prism of Restoration. Very useful for healing your familiars since this boss likes to dish out damage to them. I'd say without a doubt bring adrenaline or replenishment pots, it helps pump out the DPS once you use an ultimate, speeding up the fights, and that is exactly what you need during this fight. Now finally, a damage or accuracy boosting aura is also helpful. The more DPS you do, the faster the kills, although I have noticed the drops can be a bit tedious here. Fingers crossed for a change on that front. Now let's dive into the example preset. So for this boss, I'd recommend going in with tier 90 plus gear. I'm not saying you can't tackle the boss in normal mode with all minions and spike fonts turned off, but if you want to handle the mechanics in normal mode, you need to sustain your HP and have that extra defense and armor for protection. So in a nutshell, bring your best in slot gear, and the same goes for mage and ranged. And for those crossbow users, our Sarenic and Elite Sarenic have obtained a set effect for bolt users. Now I'd assume that eventually the bolts boost for the enchanted dragon bolts should work here too, but personally I'm not sure since I haven't tested it out. If someone has, please drop me a comment below. So I've already mentioned how to get there, but let's run through it again to avoid any confusion. Here I am at War's Retreat, facing the event portal. The game automatically sets this to the new boss location for you. Once you arrive, you'll find yourself in Fort Forestry. I've included a map for you and I've circled where you start the instance. Once you go through the portal, you'll see a commemorative statue, and that's where the magic happens. The instance is created right here. Now for normal mode instances, you don't need to check any boxes, but if you look to the right, you'll see the little boxes for story and hard mode. You're good to go by just instantly starting an instance without worrying about accidentally going into hard mode. Alright, let's dive into creating an instance. Once you've done that, you'll find yourself behind the walls and the siege phase is all around. Now I've got a handy diagram that I've scrabbled on to make things clearer for you guys. Up north we've got the minions font, to the northwest there's the bone spikes font, and all the way to the west is where you kick off the boss fight. Now if you want to disable any of the two mechanics, here's the deal. First you need to take out the undead giant, after that you need to disrupt the place of power by clicking that font. So for example, let's say you wanted to get rid of the bone spikes mechanic, head over to the northwest, knock out the undead giant there, disrupt the font, then scoot over to the west and repeat the process, and there you go. If this still sounds a bit confusing, drop a comment below and I'll respond with a text version that hopefully clears things up for you. I'd be happy to help. Now when it comes to taking down those undead giants and mobs, keep an eye on your health bar. The undead giant packs a punch and those mages can dish out some serious damage, especially if there's a bunch coming at you. Personally, when I'm in the siege phase, I like to use Protect Melee, and here's a handy tip. You can switch it up between Reflect, Devotion and Resonance, and if that gets a bit tough, it's all about finding that balance. Stay smart, keep an eye on your health and you'll do just fine. Okay, so now it's time for the mechanics. Let's talk about Vorkath's moves. First off, his auto attacks are mage based. Because they don't hit too hard and Zemo hits a lot harder, it's a good idea to protect against necromancy. The next attack is also called Dragon Breath. In normal mode, you can usually brush it off if you are using a super anti-fire or an anti-fire potions. However, to fully dodge the damage, you need the Wimfire potions. So just a heads up, anti-fire and super anti-fire only reduce the damage from this move, but it's not too tough on normal mode. The next attack he does is also Ice Squares attack, those blue icicles that show up and head your way. Protect Mage seems to stop the damage from this, but be aware that you might also still take damage from Zemo's basic necromancy moves. Also in phase 1, Zemo can stun you if you wander too far during the Ice Square mechanic. One smart move here is to use Anticipate. Oh, and a quick tip, I found out that surging through it actually with Protect Mage on, then instantly switching back to Protect Necromancy worked well too. Another move from Vorkath is spawning acid and poison pools when he hits phase 2. Now you definitely don't want to stand on top of those, they could be purple or green or both. Now I'm not sure if that is the official term for them, but you won't miss them. They're scattered across the entire arena when he spits them out. This is where things start to get more interesting for you guys, and also another more reason why I would recommend using Dive to avoid surging on top of them when the bone spikes come out. And now let's chat about Vorkath's final special attack. It's called Ice Barrage, although I kind of wanted to call it Raining Icicles. Oh well, names aside, here's the deal. When he flies up, you'll see this extra action button. That button is your buddy during this phase. You want to hit it and bam, it slams Vorkath for 10k damage, cancelling that nasty ice barrage that could have ended your poor familiar's day. Now a little tip here, if you are tackling this boss in a group, it's a good idea to have someone as a designated action button clicker. That way there is no confusion. Also, I'd probably recommend having a tank for Vorkath and someone else grabbing Zemo's attention. It keeps one person from dealing with both Fire Breath and Zemo's necromancy specials at the same time. Teamwork makes the dream work. So moving on to Zemo's mechanics. Alright, let's dive in. So Zemo hits you with auto attacks and powerful special attacks packing a punch with abilities like Finger of Death, Folly of Souls, Sap and Blood Siphon. So your best bet here is to protect against necromancy. Now let's chat about Zemo's necromancy special attacks. There's one called Soul Sap that can stun you, and I've noticed he loves using it in phase 1. So if you ever find yourself stunned, just hit freedom to clear it. or better yet, anticipate before venturing too far. Trust me, with all mechanics happening, it's easy to end up on the other side of the arena in a panic surge. It happens to the best of us. Now onto Volley of Souls. Zemo pulls this one off when he's got 3 residual souls. Keep an eye on that soul count. When you see it hit 3, throw up a devotion or reflect, maybe toss in a debilitate for good measure, because that move can be a bit of a painful hit. If you're low on health and he catches you with it, well, chances are you're saying hi to death. Tell him I said hey. Another one is Blood Siphon. It might not seem like much damage, but trust me, it does add up, and he heals himself, making it even more of a longer fight. Lastly, Death Skulls and Finger of Death. Protect Necromancy as always, and try to alternate between defensives to take less damage if you can. 2 good ones are Devotion and Debilitate, or even using Anticipate, which reduces damage by 10% and you won't get stunned while it's active. Now the Bone Spikes attack is something you'd want to watch out for. It looks like a cloud of dust and all you need to do is move away in time. If you get hit, you'll get knocked, slowing you down, and it packs a punch, so be careful. I'd recommend using Dive for precise movement, or at last resort Surge, but be cautious with Surge later on, especially with Vork's pulls mechanics. Now, I wasn't too sure where to slot this since Zemo is the one who causes this to happen, but this mechanic is where Vorkath gets all shielded up with this green shield. Simple fix here. Just take out the skeletal shielder and boom, the shield is gone. The shield makes Vorkath take less damage and well, that's not something we want, so get rid of that shielder and you're golden. Now during the fight, Zemo spawns some undead monsters. Focus on the Ghost Healer, which heals Vork, and the Skeletal Shielder making Vork take less damage. There's also the Empowering Zombie, which might have something to do with the increased damage or the power bar, but it's hard to say so soon. Main thing is to kill these 3 main ones. So I've got some smart tips on the boss's encounter here for you guys. The boss scales to 750k per person. Now I'm up for Team Spirit, but seriously, pull your weight. No room for laziness here unless of course you're volunteering as bait. Just kidding. Now the Undead Slayer sigil works like magic, and assuming it stacks with the Undead Slayer perk and the Self Amulet E. So that's a triple threat right there. Let's talk rolls. There's the action button clicker, so you've got to be on your game. Especially when that ice barrage is lurking, accidentally clicking it too early, well, make sure to protect mage, use devotion, but say goodbye to your familiars. It's a tough world out there. Extra action button is like the superhero sidekick, especially when the boss decides to take flight in the phase 3. But hey, use it wisely in phases 1 and phase 2, just keep an eye on that cooldown. Now as for the drops, let's be real, they're not exactly turning heads right now. Jagex, come on, fix please. And here's a tip to live by. Keep that health bar out of the danger zone unless you fancy a slap from the Volley of Souls and exclusive Tour of Death's domain. Oh, and standing on someone else's pulls, trust me, they hurt just as bad as your own. In the next part of the video, you'll see everything in action, a full kill on the boss fight, but before I go, thank you for watching, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. Good luck with the fight and peace out.